Hello and welcome back to one more episode of this front end loader project for a Wheel Horse 520xi. So I just added another tab here, and so that mount is done, other than final welding, of course. So my only other fab that I can think of right now, I did mention maybe doing something on the bottom of that mule just to keep kind of more or less a skid plate, and then it would bolt on right there. I'm still thinking about that. I'll see what I have left for materials when I'm done, but I've got this filter mount, and it's got tapped holes that I can bolt it on somewhere. And originally I was thinking if I put the filter in line with the suction tube, then the pump will get fresh oil. But then it was pointed out to me on Red Square, and I do agree that that will kind of starve the pump. So if I were to put this filter after the valve on the return to the tank, it will still filter. I'm going to flush this tank out with a magnet and air and probably some diesel fuel before I actually hook up anything for hydraulics. So I should start with clean fluid and keep clean fluid in there. So having the filter on the return somewhere over here, coming right out of the valve here, going into my filter and then into my return, that's not a terrible idea. I'll need to go back to the store and get some other hydraulic lines for that, but that's not a terrible ordeal either. It's always a good day for a motorcycle ride. I'm also hoping that my TIG welding skills have evolved enough in this project that I can TIG in a new coupler, which I believe is what that is right there. It's just a coupler. So I'm probably going to drill that out and weld in a new one right there. So it'll be the same spot for my return. That's better than plugging that and then drilling another one somewhere else. So that's what I think I'll do. Maybe I'll just use a hole saw and just cut that right out. But whatever I do, I need to increase my return because everything else is 1/2 inch. And I realized that if I were to bring that down to 1/4 inch, it would create enough back pressure or create head pressure for the pump. But after the valve and after everything else, I think that's kind of just pointless. I might as well just let the oil get out of the system. As far as hydraulic pressure goes, sooner the better is kind of what I think. So I'm going to pop that floorboard back on so I kind of can mock up that filter mount without getting in the way of the floorboard. Same with the hydraulic line coming out of the tank. I just want to make sure that nothing is in the way when I go to put this back together. Here's a creative tool idea for you. These hex plugs are not 1/2 inch and not 5/8, so I figured they're 9/16, and that's an Allen wrench size that I don't have. But I just crammed a double nut, and using that inside nut here, I can spin this out like this is my Allen wrench. I also noticed that when I pulled this plug, this is kind of a cool problem to have. It's leaking oil out. So that means that this has been stored for however long or however old it is. It's had oil in it the whole time. So now I don't have any problems of corrosion inside that valve, and that's awesome. I've got some elbows and fittings plumbed up on that pump, so now I can throw the pump back under and try routing some hoses through there, see what happens. Well, here, this ain't bad. I did grab a plug for that. Maybe I'll use it and weld that coupling up here and have another short nipple. And then once all this is tightened up, it'll probably shrink in another inch or so with all those threads stacking up. So as long as this fits me on the loader, I like that that filter is pretty much blocked by this upright, so I won't get any brush or anything else going on. And I might even end up just using these and build a guard, so that way I have a solid guard. I could also use like 2 tabs up here and some rod or strapping of some type to come here to support all this weight also. But I think that'll work very well. There's all kinds of room for my foot and my leg to operate everything I need to, and I can still move all of my controls very easily from my driver's seat. I really like that. I think that's going to be the winner right there. I believe before I start drilling, what I'm going to do is rig up some caps for that lower part and the upper plug, and I'm going to feed air inside here, so that way when I'm drilling, hopefully the chips, for the majority of the chips at least, will be blowing out at me instead of inside that hydraulic tank. Well, that worked quite well. My only issue is that my coupler is still a little bit too large, but there's so much diameter in there. I think what I'll do is measure this, should be 1 inch, but I'll chuck this up on the lathe and turn a shoulder into it, probably halfway, maybe 5/8 of the way across, so this will stick in there pretty far. And then I can get a good TIG weld all the way around this. That right there is a thing of beauty. Now, I just got to TIG weld it and not screw up. While I tack welded it on both sides, it looks pretty clean, so I have a feeling I'll be able to do that without pinholes. But you know how that goes. I'll end up doing some repairs somehow. That looks really nice, I think. Maybe I'm just biased, but I like that. I like the little tunnel for my leg. I like how that filters out of the way. It is on the return side, so I'll never start the pump. And I believe everything's going to be very clean once I do my final. Next step, I think I'm gonna get those steel lines sorted out, along with these new hydraulic hoses for all the cylinders. I'll probably just mock up the cylinders with all the hoses to make sure I have everything I need, and then I'll be able to begin my teardown and finish weld, clean, and paint, and then rebuild those cylinders during final assembly.